All right, music fans, welcome back. Harmless me here talking about real music in real time for real people just like you and just like me. So Gene Simmons is back at it. Oh, he's in rare form. Wow. So he's calling me and other people like me evil, delusional, and the enemy. He calls everyone who is unthinged delusional and the enemy. Gene Simmons has once again blasted people who are defiantly skeptical. I love the writing. The writing is great. Defiantly skeptical. All right. So none of us see, they write these things in a vacuum. I think these are all proofread by Klaus Schwab before they go to publication, right? The guy who says, please take the editing. Okay, let me say it again. He said out loud, there'll be people who don't want to take the editing and then other people who will take the editing. And the people who take the editing, those are going to be, the enlightened ones, the ones that assimilate into the Borg, right? I went off on a bad tangent there. I had that whole thing in my brain. But Gene Simmons says they are, who is paying Gene Simmons to be this stupid and this naive? So I still want to focus on this idea of skepticism. And there's a lot to unpack in this particular episode of Gene Simmons Goes Bonkers, right? It keeps happening. Went on the Kiss cruise. That wasn't enough. Is hawking the 45th anniversary of Destroyer because you don't have enough Destroyer. I mean, if you don't already have Destroyer, you need the updated version of Destroyer with 400 outtakes and, a pop-up book when you open up the CD or whatever it is that comes with it, and 14 other CDs that come along. And the box set will probably run you about $300, and nobody's listening to CDs anymore. So it'll just be like a keepsake. It'll be up there right next to your copy of War and Peace. I mean, come on, Gene. So I do want to unpack this idea of skepticism a little bit more, because this is how the writers always approach this. Defiant. You are defiant and you're skeptical. It's called common sense. No thing in human history has been rushed out. And by the way, I'm ticked off at Trump. I'm ticked off at Biden. I'm ticked off at all of them. Because look, as much as I don't want to pay $3 something a gallon for gas, and that's another topic, okay, their hero, who they continue to, promote and ignore the fact that the dude's in cognitive decline, and he probably got the thing or a placebo, but it's still, probably wouldn't have affected him because he's so far in decline anyway, right? So anyway, this idea of being skeptical, I'm more than skeptical because, by the way, there are commentators now who gave Aaron Rodgers a hard time because Aaron Rodgers said out loud, I did my own research. Aaron Rodgers said that. And it was like a hand grenade, like the pin got pulled out of a hand grenade. How dare you? Do you think you're smarter than me? By the way, my wife got the same thing down where she works. She got the exact same quote back. Are you smarter than the doctors? Are you smarter than they are? Holy crap, Batman. I'm just supposed to trust people I don't even know, right? Have they presented to me all of the information about the thing, what's in it, how it works, what the effects might be if things go awry? No, they don't present that to you. They're hurting the kids now. Come on, little kids. You're the next contestant on Russian roulette. Yeah, and the kids are, the parents, they're just so happy. Finally, I can protect my kid who is already at what, like 99.997%? But you can do better than that, right? Because you can do better than what God did, 99.997. And the 0.003 are typically kids that have like some serious other issues going on. But I digress. I'm just skeptical, Gene. That's all it is. Just raw, defiant, skepticism. And he calls people like this delusional and the enemy. And the enemy. I think Gene Simmons also has Trump derangement syndrome. And he was even on Trump's show. Remember, he was on The Apprentice. Did he win? I think he got beat by somebody. I don't even care. But the point is, Trump said the media at one point, they are the enemy of the people, which I agree with Trump on that. I don't agree with getting like $1 million from Pfizer for your inauguration. I don't agree with that. I don't agree signing off on some paperwork in, I want to say September or October of 2019. And for those of you who care this much about the topic, and you're on Patreon, shoot me a message. There's a little talk by David Martin, Dr. David Martin, that unfortunately really soured me on Trump and what he did. All right. And this is why I'm kind of this radical independent kind of dude, on top of being this real music observer kind of dude. But here's the deal. When the two things intersect, I'm going to talk about it. And I'm going to be honest. All right. Draining the swamp, by the way, means you actually pull the drain plug. You don't surround yourself with people who are swamp creatures. And again, that might be a topic for another video, but we're talking about Gene Simmons. So swamp creatures, Gene Simmons. Yeah. So he's talking to this thing called Talk Shop Live, and he's promoting the 45th anniversary edition of Destroyer. Some music talk. Great. He goes on to say, I don't care about your political beliefs. You are not allowed to give the thing to anybody just because you think you've got rights. And that's delusional, of course, he continued. And this just stellar Gene Simmons, who's been around the world, who's a cultured human being, right, says, you don't have the right to go through a red light. Actually, the government has the right to tell you to stop. All right, let's examine that amazing comparison to what we're being asked to do and then the red light. First of all, Gene, there are laws on the books. People got together and they agreed collectively and they passed a law. I don't know if you've seen Schoolhouse Rock, but they passed a law that says you need to stop at the red light. I can see the danger too at not stopping at a red light. Your position, though, about the thing has not been proven to me that what you're asking me to do is going to keep me safe. Where I'm pretty sure if I stop at the red light, that is going to be safe and effective and will prevent me from crashing my car into someone else. Sometimes, by the way, Gene, just as a little side note, sometimes that doesn't work, okay? It doesn't always work because there are other factors involved. See, life is a little risky. It's a little tricky. You can do the thing that everyone is asking you to do, wink, wink, hint, hint. You can still do all those things and still sometimes have negative things happen to you. Anyway, you have to put on a seatbelt. There is a national seatbelt law, I think, in place. There wasn't always one. That's what I'm trying to say. If they tell you you can't smoke in a building, then you can't smoke in a building. And that's not because they want to take your rights away. That's because the rest of us hate it. Oh, so if the collective hates something, then that means you have to obey the collective. I get it. You all hate the smoking. Well, you know what? You know what I hate? There are plenty of things I hate, but I can't ban them because I hate them. I mean, I'm a libertarian, right? And you have the freedom to make stupid choices. There are certain things that people are injecting into their bodies. I don't agree with that. There are certain things that people are smoking and maybe drinking. I don't know. I'm ready for a few drinks myself, but let me just get to the point. I'm not going to be Karen and tell people they have to behave a certain way because I don't like it. What I want to do is pursue happiness, and I don't want the government or Gene Simmons to get in my way. See how simple that is? Not difficult. He goes on, I don't want to risk my life just because you want to go through a red light. Oh, you're risking your life. Well, Gene, here's the comeback. It's an easy comeback. Didn't you go and do the thing? Oh, that's right. You did the thing and you still got the thing, right? So you're going to have to go and do another thing, Gene, because obviously some of that wore off because you got the thing after you. I know it was mild. Paul had the problem. And then your guitar tech, who apparently didn't do the thing, but was around a bunch of people who did do the thing. So was there any connection or correlation? We will never know because nobody will ever make that connection. Why won't they make that connection, Gene? Because you're not allowed. You're not allowed to say things out loud like that. Because again, I'm delusional, evil, and the enemy. All right. So he goes on to use those words together. The whole idea is delusional evil. All right. So Gene, in the 1980s and the 1970s, when you're abusing drugs and alcohol and womanizing and being very promiscuous, all right, was that a good idea? Was that a good thing to do? Was that delusional and evil? Or was it just pursuing a good time, right? Doing all the things that you were doing during those times. It didn't really affect me though, or did it? Could it have affected me? Sure. Like you could have OD'd on something, right? And then you could have acted out inappropriately. You could have drank too much alcohol and crashed your car. Even so, Gene, I don't have the right to tell you what to do with your own life. That's not my business. Your habits, your personal habits, your extra party or extracurricular behavior is none of my business. But here's the thing. If you're going to say that people who don't want to play Russian roulette with you and your kind and your cult, all right, we're going to get to humanism because he actually uses the word here. I don't want to go on with that cult. I don't want to be a part of that tribe. All right. You can't pull me into your tribe. You have no right to tell me what to do. By the way, all of this is a severe violation of the Fourth Amendment. It's a severe, and you know, anytime somebody wants to do something to your body and it's unwanted, there's a word for that. And I'm going to say it. It's a family show, but I'm still going to say it. That word is rape. Okay? That's what that, and it doesn't have to be the traditional kind. It can be the kind where here comes an unwanted activity that I don't want to participate in. Somebody is coming at me and I don't want them to poke or prod me. And they at some point might even penetrate. That is called rape. Sorry for the analogy, but you know, Gene here is throwing all this amazing high caliber, high quality reasoning at me. So I figured I'd take him to task on that. This whole idea, this delusional evil idea that you get to do whatever you want and the rest of the world be damned is really terrible. Okay, Gene, so what happened to you in the 1970s and 80s that now, because you're this holier than thou rock god with a small g, that's for sure, you get to turn the tables around? I could have said the same thing to you. You could have had all of those zealot Christian type people saying Gene Simmons is going to hell for his behavior. Now, I may have believed that kind of in the back of my mind, but I would have never said, hey, Gene, you know, you have to stop this because this is really terrible. And, you know, you just can't do these things without affecting other people. You don't just live in a vacuum, Gene. See, here's the difference between me and Gene Simmons. I don't care what Gene Simmons does. I don't care about the risk that he would pose to me if he wasn't doing the thing. By the way, again, you know, the goalposts, you know, I keep talking about those, right? So they move the goalposts over to, well, the good thing is if you have to go to the ER, it won't be as bad. That's all they have left, supposedly. But again, International Business Times, you can read the data on the people that have done the thing. And then, you know, after that, something kind of bad happens to them. And that's sort of the end. You know, that's it. He goes on, which is really crazy here, because now he's starting to sound full martial law. You've got to identify those people with what? Like maybe in a star, like put a star on their armband, maybe, and you got to bring them into the open. This is seriously what he said. I'm not lying. Let me read this. You've got to identify those people and bring them out into the open so you know who they are. So are we dragging people out of their houses? How do we identify those people? Do we mark them? Gene Simmons, who has a history in his family of Nazi Germany, right? He's got the history. And he would put it out there during interviews, telling people and using it as kind of a crutch for sympathy, which I did have. I honestly have lots of sympathy for people who went through that or their ancestors. And you would think, based on that experience, that he'd have a shred of understanding as to what this is. But he doesn't. He does. He has conveniently forgotten about it. Simmons also touched on conspiracy theorists and anti-science diehards. Really? You mean the people who are more educated on this than anybody? Just the smartest people I read and watch are all people who know everything about the thing and everything about the other thing that is supposed to stop the first thing. And because they're trying to get to the bottom of everything, it causes them to do real research and use scientific language. And he calls them the Flat Earth Society. He goes on to say, for those that don't believe this is real, because they asked if it was a hoax, right? They continue to use the hoax thing. Nobody says it's a hoax. Some people think it's a weapon, but nobody thinks it's a hoax. They accused Ted Nugent of saying, oh, it's a hoax. And he never really said that. And even if he did, so what? There are a lot of people at the very beginning here were right technically about how this is being used to manipulate people and to pit one another against each other. But guess what? It's not a hoax. It's something that was perpetuated, just like the thing that is supposed to solve the problem. That is also in the same category. But he goes on to talk about the people in the Flat Earth Society. They keep using the same terminology. Again, the knuckle-dragging conservative people from Appalachia who are just so stupid. And even though they listened to Kiss music for a lot of their lifetime, they probably didn't. They were probably listening to like Johnny Cash and Hank Williams. They probably weren't listening to Kiss because they're too smart to listen to Kiss, quite honestly. He goes, who believe in all sorts of things because they were fat or because they smoked. Okay. He goes, no, B, they died because they got the thing. And there are a lot of people who don't believe that. And you have to find out who those people are. Again, you have to find them. You have to call them out. You have to mark them, basically drag them out and get them out. And so you can expose them and shame them into the cult, because that's the only thing you've got left, Gene. Most people believe that the people who died of the thing might have died of the thing plus something else, possibly. Or they may have died of the thing, but they were treated so poorly, especially when you consider how you could have dealt with this instead of telling everybody to go home and wait, which is really what the protocol says to do. All right, there are a lot of us who believe that the medical system is in free fall and collapsing. And Gene Simmons seems to celebrate that. He goes, I don't care if you play football or not. Stay away from evil people who don't care about your health. So he goes on a little bit further, but that's really the crux of it. Oh, humanism. He goes, politics are the enemy. I would agree on that. He talks about the far left and the far right are both evil. I wouldn't agree with that. They both spread. See, this is the diplomat. Well, the far left and the far right are bad. They both spread all kinds of nonsense. No, anyone who digs in and is passionate, whether it's far left, and I'm not applauding that, or it's far right, because far left means authoritarianism for the most part. Far right might mean some authoritarianism. I don't know. Depends on who it is. The point is, people who have passionate ideas and believe in things, they're labeled as extreme because they have those ideas. You're an extremist. What? Because I believe, I don't know, that the Bible is true or something? Oh, nobody believes that anymore. You're a flat earth person. Okay. He says humanism and humanity is what we should all be concerned about. Humanism? Humanism. Then he says, love thy neighbor as thyself. Okay. Well, guess what? Nobody loves me more than me, Gene. Nobody loves me. I'd like to love you like I love me, but here's what I do, right? So I love me, so therefore I do not want to do the thing because I'm selfish, right? And I'm a flat earther. That's how much I love me, because I don't trust. I don't want to play Russian roulette. So yeah, nobody loves me more than me, Jane. And that's okay, because I think God is going to see it my way. He's going to say, well, you were trying to love on those people, but they called you an enemy. And, I know you're supposed to keep turning that cheek, but at some point, these people are given over to like a mind that isn't able to compute and think and be commonsensical. And that obviously is what's happening to Gene Simmons. So he goes on to say, yawning is not a life-threatening event. You might have the thing, and that might be a life-threatening event, and I don't want to catch it. So you did the thing, so you're covered. See, I just don't understand how, and then they're telling all these people who did the thing, continue to do all of the things that we told you to do before you took the thing. Keep your distance, wear your medical device, especially if you go into, even outside in some jurisdictions, they're encouraging you to wear a medical device when you're outdoors. What? Why? You did the thing. What's the problem? Because you're all worried, right, about the few people that didn't do it. And you're just admitting to that your life-saving elixir might not be doing the trick. So in any event, super long video here. Gene Simmons completely off the rails, people. Completely. I don't want to say like he's lost his mind, but I don't understand. Here's my last thoughts on this. One of the biggest problems throughout this entire thing is only one side of the argument is presented in the mainstream. Only one side. And if something creeps in there like, oh, there was a teacher, did you hear about what happened to her? She was here yesterday, and now today she's not breathing. And, she had done the thing. Oh, shh. No. It's in her head. It's all in her head. No, but she's not breathing. So how's that in her head? Well, it's just a coincidence. People aren't even willing to listen to that. And then the ultimate argument is they'll say, well, she had all these other problems, right? And we can't connect the dots here. It's just a coincidence. And you're sitting there going, these people are lying. They're lying. They know they're lying. And then it's a cover-up. It's a complete cover-up. And what's weird is there are a whole bunch of people like Gene Simmons who don't want to hear that. They don't even care to listen to it. They call you a conspiracy theorist, anti-science, all of these things. And I'm like, the science is breathing yesterday, not breathing today, Gene. Breathing, not breathing. Heart beating, heart not beating, Gene. I don't know. That seems fairly scientific and fairly cut and dry. Even a rube like me, even a knuckle-dragging rube like Dave can understand that. So I don't know what to do about any of this because this is the prevailing view. And you may say, this is just an aging rock star who seems bitter about a lot of things. He seems anti-person. If I'm anti-science, then he's anti-person. And he says, love your neighbor. Well, guess what? Respect your neighbor and their views. Don't call them the enemy. I'm not going to love my neighbor if my neighbor declares me the enemy. So much contradiction here, so much hypocrisy, so much to unpack. And maybe all this is just to generate another video from me. Maybe it's just more publicity to get people angry and to get people talking. And then his name gets out there some more. And then people will go out and buy the 45th anniversary edition of Destroyer, because that is really essential right now when people are losing their jobs, they're losing their income, they're paying like $70 for a tank of gas. Rents are like $2,000 a month in most places. I don't know how people afford any of this stuff if they're not making like a six-figure salary. I just don't know. Or combining multiple incomes in one household. But yes, let's go out and buy Destroyer. And yes, let's call people who disagree with you the enemy, because that's helpful. And I understand why he's doing that, because Trump called the media the enemy, and they are. He was right about that. He was completely right about that. All right. And again, I don't agree with Trump on a lot of things. I have some serious problems regarding what he did leading up to this, and then still being a salesperson for the thing. And people will say, oh, but he had another motive, or, well, he's playing 4D chess, or he's no, I'm not buying any of the Q logic that's out there, because that's a big thing. Oh, trust the plan. Here's the plan. We need to save ourselves. When some anonymous thing out there is not going to do the work for you. You've got to do the work. You've got to be at the school board. You've got to be out there railing against this. You need to talk to your congressman, congresswoman. You need to be persistent on social media, correcting these people or pushing back against the sheer stupidity. I'm not skeptical at all. That's not the word. I'm rebellious. And I know that a game of Russian roulette, I'm not going to let my kids do it. I'm not going to do it. Heck, anybody I know, I'll tell them flat out. They want to listen to me, I will tell them. And by the way, there are far more important things to worry about than getting a copy of the 45th anniversary edition of Destroyer by Kiss. And I think people ought to focus on what's truly important at this crazy, crucial hour.